Happy day, sisters. Welcome to Come Sis With Me, the podcast, a movement fueled by the heart of women with a desire to experience genuine community that uplifts, empowers, and strengthens one another on one common hood, sisterhood. I'm your host, Mia, relationship counselor, coach, minister, and your sisterhood connoisseur. Join me as we walk through my honest conversations on all things sisterhood, womanhood, and whatever other hood comes up, with a goal of knowing that through it all, you got this, sis. Hey guys, welcome back to Come Sis With Me, the podcast. It's been a weird couple weeks for me. I have felt kind of off, maybe like stagnant in I guess in a series of places, like in my workout routine and my scheduling for myself, goals, just kind of I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but I'm definitely in that area. I can probably attribute it to also this is the time of the year where I'm starting to think about the transition between Japan and the US. And so as I'm getting ready to pack up my life and move from one side of the world to the other, it's just a lot of things that go into that. But I wanted to talk to you about some personal experiences that I've had, specifically with diversity and sisterhood. So I don't know if you ever even thought about this, but a topic came up within my own kind of circle about growing in our womanhood. And it was sparked by just thinking about these things, like how we get into these places where we're just stagnant. We're not growing. Things aren't really changing. I'm not really seeing anything externally changing around me. And so, of course, my thought process goes to, well, then nothing internally is changing either. For some of us, we're comfortable where we are, but for many of us, we may start second guessing ourselves, second guessing our womanhood. I personally I just started with an ADHD behavioral counselor. And so her job is to help me identify what's taking place in my mind and what kind of techniques and routines and systems I can put in place to help me overcome some of those pitfalls, those I'm not gonna say pitfalls, let me say speed bumps in the process. And what it's funny is I've been looking for probably the last several months, but I sent my findings to my girlfriend Razia, and she says, "This girl's like, there's no Black people that work here." Like, that's the first thing she noticed. There's no Black people that work. And I'm like, no, there's not. But, I talked to the woman who is going to essentially counsel me. And I feel good about, the potential relationship and the interactions that we had. And she's like, okay, well, whatever. But, she's not going to understand what you potentially go through. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We'll see. We connect on the ADHD level. So she's, been diagnosed. She's going through several years of training. We'll see where it goes. But I'm not going to lie. The conversation stuck in my head. So on my first official session with, her name is Karen. I said to Karen, hey, Karen, I chose you because I feel like we connect. Are we connected in the interview? And I just think you understand where I'm coming from as far as like a professional who has to work through certain aspects of her mind in order to reach certain goals. But there is one aspect of this relationship that, is just kind of sitting in the back of my head. And I feel like in order for us to really have a good bond, for us to build trust, for us to go anywhere from here, I kind of need to share it. Great, go for it. What is it? Tell me. I'm like, Karen, none of your coworkers, nobody in your organization is Black or brown. And it pauses me because as a Black and brown woman, it's really hard to find someone who will recognize the things that are going on with me, that may not necessarily be as a result of chemical or hormonal or just genetic imbalance, but it could actually be a part of trauma, and the things that I have to deal with as a Black and brown woman. And I tell you guys, Karen had the best freaking response. Like I explained to her all of the ins and outs and how even in my research, it has been very hard to find a Black and brown woman, especially in an organization that is specific to ADHD and neurodivergent brains, that is of color, and it lacks diversity in this field. And her response was, I am so appreciative of you sharing that and sharing your perspective and what you see, because I am going to be the first to admit that the privilege that I was born into, has blinded me to that I did not even notice that that was a thing. She's like, but now that you have brought it to my attention, and that, I've obviously put voice and words to this for me, like language to what is actually taking place. I'm going to share it with my coworkers. I'm going to share it with, the person who created the organization. And I don't know where that will lead. Maybe it'll lead to having Black and brown people. Maybe I'll be working for them one day. You never know. But the point was, there was an opportunity for them to grow, and I shared, I voiced it, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? But the opportunity is there for them to grow. And so that's where I want to start today, is about how diversity in your sisterhood is playing out. Do you believe in diversity in your sisterhood? Do you see the benefits? Do you have diversity in your sisterhood? I think smart women recognize that there is a lesson, or there is something that we can learn from every woman that we meet. And that our growth and womanhood, a lot of times, depends on the interactions and the relationships that we actually hold with the women around us. And we have to be careful how to manage certain tasks, how to manage certain aspects of your relationship, whether you're married or single, how to manage your life and motherhood, and even on the journey to motherhood. I mean, there's just so many experiences that we have as women, that if our circle only consists of people who look and act and respond like us, I can see why there's a lack of growth. And the conversation that I had with my sisters about growth and womanhood talked about, what's your circle look like? Are we bringing in a diverse group of women to help us navigate our lives? So let's talk about diversity. So diversity is, and I wrote down a couple of things. It can be socioeconomic status. It can be based on race. It could be based on religion, marital status, single status, age, education, employment. So diversifying your circle of sisterhood can be a multitude of things, right? So I'm not just talking about, if you're Black, adding white and Asian women to your circle, or if you're any other color, whatever, adding Black friends, although that absolutely is a part of it. I'm talking about diversifying your circle, all encompassing, right? So you guys know that for majority of the year, I live in Japan. I live on the other side of the world. Right. And so my sisters, like people who are really close to me that look like me, act like me, respond to me, are typically on a 12+ hour time difference than me. So I can't just on the whim call them and say, hey, what are you doing? What's up? I need your advice on this. Um, a lot of times I've learned over the last couple of years that it has been really good for me to have women at least that have one thing in common with me on the same time zone, right? So I have made friends and I've made a point to reach out to a lot of women who live here in Japan. Not all of them Asian, not all of them Japanese, right? Some of them are our only basic connection is that they are a basketball wife too. At the end of the day, like nothing else matches, but we're basketball wives. And at the end of the day, we can connect on that if nothing else. Um, and so they've been an outlet for me, or even with my teammates, wives and girlfriends. Or nothing else. A lot of times we don't even speak the same language. I use Google Translate a lot, um, and just rely on hand gestures and my very limited knowledge of Japanese to initiate conversations or interactions with the wives and the girlfriends of the guys who my husband is teammates with, right? Because one thing that we all can relate to is the fact that we have to sit at a basketball every weekend. Not that I mind it. I actually like basketball now, but that we have to sit at basketball games every weekend. Like, what's your life like? Mine's is real, right? Let's talk about basketball. Um, but many of these women are either older than me or younger than me. They have kids. Some are single. Maybe they're not married yet. Some of them are different color. So many of them are of a different religion or of no religion at all. Um, Education wise is different, right? Employment wise, most of the basketball wives that I know are stay at home mothers or stay at home wives, right? So their life, they don't have like a workplace that they go to. And so all of these things are different. But I love the diversity and I truly do learn something from every woman that I meet, no matter how different she is than me. So a couple things that I wrote down about diversity. First of all, um, I think the benefit of having diversity in sisterhood is that you start to build a respectful, a stronger, and a more loving um, internal meter for other women. You start to value the community and the family aspect of having different women around you, right? It just makes you okay. Some of the benefits of diversity and sisterhood for me have been um okay. Some of the benefits of diversity overall, right, is that we can build respectful, stronger, and more loving communities for one another, and in turn, our families. We're at we're basically the backbone of these communities and families that we're a part of. And having a level of um, awareness and even understanding for another woman just allows that to be transferred and then deposited into the people around you and then even the children that you're raising. Um, I think about this interaction I had with a woman here very early on in my husband's career. She's Japanese, and we obviously had nothing in common other than basketball. But I remember us having a conversation. How? I don't even know, because I don't think she spoke a lick of English, and I definitely didn't speak any Japanese. But we connected. We got it. We got a conversation because I remember the conversation. Um, and I remember her asking me about my hair, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to share with her how Black women do not like their hair touched. Like, don't do it. It takes a lot of time for it to get this way. And so when we come out presentable, sis, you can't be touching hair. And I remember her saying, I'm going to teach my kids not to touch women's hair because my son always touches my hair and a lot. And I even remember her say, like, explaining to me, it's I don't even like my hair being touched, but kids and even other people in this society who have not seen, big curly hair like mine or even braids or the different styles that we as women can present with. Like our crowns can come in multiple different shades, colors, levels. And how any woman doesn't like to have their hair touched because we know the time it takes to get our hair looking the way it looks. But she said, like, I'm going to teach my sons not to touch women's hair, unless they're invited to, right? And I told her that's amazing because it takes a lot of time to do my hair. And not to mention kids, I don't know what's on your kids' hair, hands, but my hair is like a magnet. I have found bobby pins, pieces of paper, tree leaves, you name it, I done found it in my head. Okay, at the end of the day, depending on where I'm at, I definitely don't want your kids' dirty hands in my hair because I know what it takes to get it out. Okay, but it just having that conversation, that legacy from that conversation can lead to men, Japanese men, who typically don't really care about what a woman says or thinks, right, will grow up with an understanding that women are to be respected, right? And they have boundaries. And one of those boundaries is their hair. Yes. Another thing diversity does in sisterhood is it motivates us to fight for structural interventions and reform for women all over. Right. So I talked about health and the importance of health in sisterhood and us really coming together because when we recognize that there is a disparity in our health care, and that our sisters are struggling and even dying from the disparities, when we talk to different uh, women groups, right? Black, white, old, young, or older, younger, single, married, mothers, not mothers, we get an all encompassing view of the healthcare disparities. We're not just talking about, you know, Black women dying at a disproportional rate than white women in pregnancy and childbirth, right? We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about treatments of those diseases. And not just from a Black white stance from, but what's it look like when an older woman goes in for a diagnosis? Is she immediately dismissed versus a younger woman who maybe in a doctor's eyes is like, hey, they got a better chance of surviving this, so we'll do more. Who knows? That just pierced my heart and hurt my heart so bad that that could even be a thing, but it can, right? And so when we talk to other women, when we embrace the difficulties that other women are dealing with, their fight now becomes our fight. We collectively unify, and now we have, now we together, we are army. um, it brings a sort of emphasis on humanity and helps us see how we are alike more so than different. I was reading a commentary on in the Bible about Jesus, right? And how many of us really discount Jesus's humanity, but his humanity is what should give us the most hope. And we just hate humanity. We just dislike it so much. Um, and I know why, because there's a lot of, you know, variables that come with us humans, right? But we also should love the very thing that makes us alike, which is our humanity. And I strive to see the humanness in everyone first before I see you as the person who cut me off in the road or the sister who betrayed me. Um, yeah, because there's a level of humanness to you that caused you to respond that way. And I get it because people have probably seen my mistakes first or my differences first and discounted my humanity. And I know how much that hurts. Yeah. Um, I also thought about this in church, right? Without different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities and experiences to help shape our community and our sisterhood, and even our church communities, we don't really get a good opportunity to understand one another. And we have to be really careful about this in church settings because if you are only creating a community in church of people who you can love, like that are easy to love for you, then it starts to become a cult versus a community. Um, Cults have people who think the same, look the same, act the same, behave the same, love the same things, dislike the same things. That's cultish behavior. Kingdom behavior is loving because you choose to the people who may make it extremely hard for you to love them just because you feel like, right? Because that's how you feel about them. Love is not just a feeling, it's truly a choice. And I learned about this in marriage. And I don't know if y'all watch Married at First Sight, but I tell you from the beginning, I have loved that show because it has really portrayed how love is a choice, right? These people don't know anything about each other. They walk into a situation based on one commonality, which is I want to be married. And they either choose to stay together or they don't. Um, but we have to be careful about the lack of diversity in our communities and our circles, especially in our sisterhood. So, um, there's a difference between diversity and inclusion. And I want to talk about that really quick. Diversity is a respecting and a valuing of the unique characteristics of many, right? But it does not need to be inclusive, which is accepting those different qualities and uniques or adopting those unique qualities and characteristics. The beauty about diversity is that everyone is able to kind of play their part. Um, and you take kind of what makes sense or what helps you grow and you leave, but you don't discount what it is that you don't need to grow and what you don't need to succeed or do any of the things with. Um, I just read and watched this really beautiful documentary about it's called about this group called Sisterhood of Salam and Shalom. And it is two women who one is Jewish, one is Muslim, and they decided to create groups all over America of an equal part of Muslims and Jews to come together, all women, to come together and talk about the differences and the unique qualities of their lives, their religion, dispel any kind of misconceptions about their religions, there's a couple other things that took place, but it was just so beautiful to watch how these women came together and they really formed bonds. They really transformed, really, many of them, because a lot of them came with such hate and a big disdain for their female counterpart, because just because she was raised as a Muslim or raised as in Jewish culture. And we know from watching what's taking place in Israel and Palestine, like that conflict, those roots are deep. And so a lot of the reason why we dislike someone else is solely based on misconceptions and things that were passed down to us. So when you diversify your sisterhood now, right? When you diversify your circle and you are open to acknowledging the differences of someone else, it transforms your ability to love them. And maybe love them right out of the things that you think are killing them, right? Man, I just imagine what love would look like for Israel and Palestine right now, right? What it would look like if sisters came together on both sides of the border and they were able to influence the the structures, the systems that are in place that are literally tearing apart communities and families. Um, Bombings of homes and hospitals and religious organizations, temples, and it's just it's just saddening to me. Um, but this documentary, oh, okay. Let me get back to a high point because I'm about to cry if I don't. This documentary literally showed how strangers transformed into sisters, and then those some of those sisters transformed into friends. Um, and the undergirding of this, the growth that took place, the thing that undergirded the growth was empathy and acknowledging the diversity, the differences, the unique characteristics that made these women who they are. And I really pray that over you. I pray that there would be an undergirding in your growth for empathy and acknowledging of one another, right? Despite the differences, even despite the things, the behaviors and the experiences that you had of the past, um, that could potentially be playing a role in why you haven't diversified your circle. Um, but I pray that you will be okay with differences, that the things that make that's another sister completely opposite than you will be the same exact things that you grow and choose to love about them. Um, Diversity and sisterhood is a strength. It's not a threat. And the more that we embrace the differences of one another, the more we can grow spiritually, mentally, and I think even physically, really transforming ourselves from inside out. Um, yeah, I think we have an opportunity to be innovative, enriching, um, empowering to one another, and to really see opportunities for limitless growth when we invite sisters of different racial ethnicities, religions, ages, colors, um, socioeconomic statuses, to lunch, to brunch, to dinner, to coffee. to sit down and have a random conversation with. Because you never know. You never know. Could be you helping her, could be her helping you. Who knows? But I pray that over us, sisters, because we're worth it and we deserve it. And I just love seeing us together. I love seeing us as one, unified. So that's it for this week. Love you guys. I pray that this blessed you. And I pray that you grow your circles so that they look like pretty little pictures of all different colors and ages and even abilities, right? So think about, oh, I didn't even talk about this, but disabilities, right? Imagine how wonderful that would be to invite them out on a date and make it convenient for how they do life. I don't know. Just that was off the top of my head, but man, that's just beautiful. If we did more of that, we'd be unstoppable, guys. Unstoppable. Anyway, I pray that over you. And if you feel like you have been thinking about this for a while, here's your confirmation. And if you haven't been thinking about it, maybe because it's uncomfortable to you, I just want to remind you that growth is uncomfortable. Doing something different is absolutely uncomfortable. But the beauty of womanhood, the beauty of sisterhood, is that we can be uncomfortable together and still grow. So I appreciate you. I love you. And if you forgot, or if you didn't already know, you got this, sis. If you enjoyed this episode of Come Sis with Me, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Tune in next time as we continue to explore the extraordinary power of women and the bond of sisterhood. Until then, you got this, sis.